So while Benjamin Netanyahu was busy congratulating his generals over yet another round of airstrikes that reduced Lebanese villages to rubble, a strike that killed more civilians and dragged the region even closer to a full-scale catastrophe, something entirely unexpected was already unfolding thousands of miles away.
Next week marks 1 year since a ceasefire was agreed to end the Israel-Hezbollah war in Lebanon. But ever since, tensions on the ground have been escalating. Just this week, Israel launched a series of strikes in Lebanon that killed at least a dozen people. The Israeli military said it was targeting Hamas members.
In breaking news, Israel's military claims it's killed Hezbollah's chief of staff in Beirut. It's the first time the IDF has attacked Lebanon's capital since June. An Israeli government spokesperson says Israel reserves the right to strike Lebanon if Hezbollah attempts to rearm.
Singapore's youth, long frustrated by Israel's brutal campaign in Gaza and Lebanon, suddenly made their anger impossible to ignore. And they made that message roar across the sea. Late at night at Keppel Terminal, two Israeli-linked vessels, ZIM Haifa and ZIM Shanghai, erupted into flames. Both ships, allegedly stuffed with IDF supplies disguised as electronics, became the center of a coordinated arson strike. A group calling itself Angkatan Pemuda 65 boldly claimed responsibility, saying they hijacked a tugboat, launched incendiary devices, and watched as the steel deck buckled and thick smokes, curled into the city's skyline. Their message was sharp and uncompromising. No more transit for terror. You can almost see Netanyahu's face twisting in anger, disbelief, flooding the office as he realized that even Singapore, a global port hub he likely assumed would never interfere, had obviously become another front of resistance. Yet the West stayed silent, too preoccupied between UN resolutions and shielding Israel from accountability to acknowledge that Asia's youth had just sent a warning shot he could not ignore. But the truth is, this wasn't a spontaneous outburst. It was the continuation of a long-hidden tradition of pro-Palestine activism in Singapore, a tradition that has shaped the island political youth culture for decades. Singapore might look calm on the surface, a perfectly ordered island state, but underneath lies a deep memory of anti-imperialist struggle tied directly to its own battle against colonial rule. Many young Singaporeans see Gaza's suffering not as a distant tragedy, but as a reflection of their own historical wounds. Oppression, control, and the fight to reclaim dignity. What happened at Keppel Terminal wasn't born overnight. It was shaped by years of bottled frustration, live stream injustice, and a generational instinct that knows precisely what resistance feels like. And before I continue, obviously, on this very great story, you can see that YouTube is making short videos like this don't get the reach needed to tell the truth. So I encourage you to like and share widely. That alone helps me break through the suffocation. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, obviously we're not AI. You should do, because it will obviously, support my work. Back to the video. Well, back in the 1970s, during the larger incident, local activists inspired by global liberation movement staged disruptive port activities, blocking Israeli-bound shipments and delaying cargo for days. In the 1990s, during the heated debate over national identity and social engineering, women groups used the moment to amplify Palestinian suffering and push back against Israel's influence. By 2014, during Israel's Operation Protective Urge, that obviously slaughtered over 2,000 Palestinians, Singapore saw its largest solidarity gatherings in years. And beneath the surface, covert port sabotage, stranded several Israeli vessels for weeks, and by 2024 and early this year, young activists were done with symbolic gestures. They moved into digital warfare, launching coordinated hacks that disabled the navigation system on an Israeli boat carrier. To them, it wasn't extremism, obviously. It was moral duty. If government stayed silent, citizens would act. All this find its way nowhere close to the mainstream media. Even Singapore's own Foreign Affairs Minister Vivek Balakrishnan was forced to respond to the rapidly shifting mood in the country. Take a listen.
The Palestinian Authority actually do look forward to this engagement. And of course, I've also reiterated our long-standing belief that the only viable way to achieve a just and durable solution is a negotiated two-state solution. The Israeli leaders know that there's a long and difficult journey ahead. But there is also a consciousness that you can't just keep repeating these cycles of failure and violence. And they're going to need support from the international community, from the United Nations. And of course, for this specific crisis, the invaluable role played by President Trump and his 20-point plan, and the way it will be implemented through a United Nations Security Council resolution. But these are still only initial steps. There's still a very, very long journey. Basically, if you look at the situation from the perspective of the people, the suffering civilians in Gaza, even the Palestinians in the West Bank, who are still waiting for a state, who are waiting for a future with hope and potential, there needs to be progress in which the two peoples find a way to coexist in peace, dignity, and security.
In the briefing, Singapore announced immediate targeted financial sanctions and entry bans on 4 Israeli men for egregious acts of extremist violence against Palestinians living in the West Bank. The 4 individuals are Mir Mordechai, Etinja Elisha, Yared Ben Zion Gobstein, and Broj Mazel were singled out for action. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs described as unlawful and dangerous to any prospect of a two-state solution. Singapore reiterated that Israeli settlements in the West Bank are illegal under international law, warning that their expansion undermines any viable political solution. As a firm supporter, according to them, of international law, Singapore stressed that it rejects any unilateral attempt to change facts on the ground through actions to violate international norms. And so now, with Angkatan Pemuda 65 stepping out of the shadows, the message is unmistakable. Singapore younger generation is tired of watching war after war, bombing after bombing, and silence after silence. They're stepping into a legacy of resistance shaped by their own national history of survival against domination. In their statement after the Keppel Ablaze, the group declared, and I quote, "We are the generation of 1965 reborn. Independence wasn't just from colonial powers, it is from complicity. Every crate that sells funds a crime. Every flame we lit demands justice." Meanwhile, according to information, police may be combing CCTV and hunting for suspects, but across hawker stores, university corridors, port workers, lounges, and late-night cafes, people are talking whatever anyone thinks of the method. One truth stands tall. Singapore's youth are no longer content to watch from the sidelines. They made sure Netanyahu had that very loud and clear. Thank you so much for watching. Please support honest journalism by subscribing to the channel. Liking this video and sharing it far and wide would seriously help me. And until I see you in the next one, God bless you.